Welcome back to Washington, D.C., and welcome back to the largest pro-life gathering in the United States of America, the 45th Annual March for Life. "45 years ago, the Supreme Court of the United States turned its back on the inalienable right to life. But in that moment, our movement began. A movement that continues to win hearts and minds. A movement defined by generosity, compassion, and love. In a movement that 1 year ago tomorrow inaugurated the most pro-life president in American history, President Donald Trump. My friends, life is winning in America because love saves lives. And know as you march for life that your compassion, your persistence, your activism, and your prayers are saving lives. And this pro-life generation should never doubt we are with you. This president stands with you. And he who said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you," is with you as well. And I believe with all of my heart, with your continued dedication and compassion, with pro-life majorities in the Congress, with President Donald Trump in this White House, and with God's help, we will restore the sanctity of life to the center of American law. And so, with a grateful heart, on this 45th Annual March for Life, it is now my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. That's so nice. Sit, please. We have tens of thousands of people watching us right down the road. Tens of thousands. So I congratulate you. And at least we picked a beautiful day. You can't get a more beautiful day. I want to thank our Vice President, Mike Pence, for that wonderful introduction. I also want to thank you and Karen for being true champions for life. Thank you. And thank Karen. Today I'm honored and really proud to be the first president to stand with you here at the White House to address the 45th March for Life. That's very, very special. 45th March for Life. And this is a truly remarkable group. Today, tens of thousands of families, students, and patriots, and really just great citizens gather here in our nation's capital. You come from many backgrounds, many places, but you all come for one beautiful cause: to build a society where life is celebrated, protected, and cherished. The March for Life is a movement born out of love. You love your families, you love your neighbors, you love our nation, and you love every child, born and unborn, because you believe that every life is sacred, that every child is a precious gift from God. We know that life is the greatest miracle of all. We see it in the eyes of every new mother who cradles that wonderful, innocent, and glorious newborn child in her loving arms. I want to thank every person here today and all across our country who works with such big hearts and tireless devotion to make sure that parents have the care and support they need to choose life. Because of you, tens of thousands of Americans have been born and reached their full God-given potential. Because of you. You're living witnesses of this year's March for Life theme, and that theme is Love Saves Lives. As you all know, Roe versus Wade has resulted in some of the most permissive abortion laws anywhere in the world. For example, in the United States, it's one of only 7 countries to allow elective late-term abortions, along with China, North Korea, and others. Right now, in a number of states, the laws allow a baby to be born from his or her mother's womb in the 9th month. It is wrong. It has to change. Americans are more and more pro-life. You see that all the time. In fact, only 12% of Americans support abortion on demand at any time. Under my administration, we will always defend the very first right in the Declaration of Independence, and that is the right to life. We're really proud of what we're doing, and during my first week in office, I reinstated a policy first put in place by President Ronald Reagan, the Mexico City policy. I strongly supported the House of Representatives' pain-capable bill, which would end painful late-term abortions nationwide. And I call upon the Senate to pass this important law and send it to my desk for signing. On the National Day of Prayer, I signed an executive order to protect religious liberty. Very proud of that. Today, I'm announcing that we have just issued a new proposal to protect conscience rights and religious freedoms of doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals. So important. I have also just reversed the previous administration's policy that restricted states' efforts to direct Medicaid funding away from abortion facilities that violate the law. We are protecting the sanctity of life and the family as the foundation of our society. But this movement can only succeed with the heart and the soul and the prayer of the people. Here with us today is Mary Anna Donadio from Greensboro, North Carolina. Where is Mary Anna? Hello, come on up here, Mary Anna. Come. Nice to see you, Diane. Mariana was 17 when she found out she was pregnant. At first, she felt like she had no place to turn. But when she told her parents, they responded with total love, total affection, total support. Great parents? Great? I thought you were going to say that. I had to be careful. Mariana bravely chose life and soon gave birth to her son. She named him Benedict, which means blessing. Mariana was so grateful for her parents' love and support that she felt called to serve those who were not as fortunate as her. She joined with others in her community to start a maternity home to care for homeless women who were pregnant. It's great. They named it Room at the Inn. Today, Mariana and her husband, Don, are the parents of 6 beautiful children, and her eldest son, Benedict, and her daughter, Maria, join us here today. Where are they? Come on over. That's great. Over the last 15 years, Room at the Inn has provided housing, childcare, counseling, education, and job training to more than 400 women. Even more importantly, it has given them hope. It has shown each woman that she is not forgotten, that she is not alone, and she really now has a whole family of people who will help her succeed. That hope is the true gift of this incredible movement that brings us together today. It is the gift of friendship, the gift of mentorship, and the gift of encouragement, love, and support. Those are beautiful words, and those are beautiful gifts. And most importantly of all, it is the gift of life itself. That is why we march. That is why we pray, and that is why we declare that America's future will be filled with goodness, peace, joy, dignity, and life for every child of God. Thank you to the March for Life, special, special people, and we are with you all the way. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I've always seen that one of the greatest things we can do is to help those who are the weakest in our society. And the most innocent form of life that we have are the unborn. I walked up my second day at Georgetown and saw this table, and I hadn't really heard of the Knights of Columbus before. You know, when I heard this pitch, this notion of this chance to live out a life of service inspired by our faith, I was immediately drawn to it. Today in our society, we've lost the moral foundation that charted our path forward to greatness. The Knights of Columbus bring that faith in a tangible way into society, founded on this message that God is great. Today, we're here to march with thousands of other people for the right to life. The first time I went was my freshman year, and I knew this was a cause that I could really dedicate myself to. First time?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I like it.
Yeah? It's a big crowd. It's a big crowd. What you doing here today? What brought you?
I've been a Knight for about 6 months, and I'm here today for the pro-life movement.
The Knights have meant so much to me because they've offered me a close-knit community of brotherhood. It's founded in a common faith, and that brings them to common action. I see it when we march in unity today, that we're marching together because the bonds are so deep and so strong.
Anyone out here today can feel the joy in this crowd. Anyone watching on TV can see it. People come from all over the country. You march with your churches, you march with your friends, your neighbors. You are marching with joy and hope, not with anger and hate.
I see the Knights of Columbus marching arm in arm for a cause. I can see right now the future of our movement, and it is bright. You relentlessly fight for truth, you will always win in the end.
Within the span of 7 days, there were 2 marches in Washington, the Women's March and the March for Life. The Women's March was a display of vulgarity, obscenity, and just downright meanness.
But just a lot of people were kind of being physical. We have a pregnant woman with us, and she was pushed. And people are, yelling in our faces and giving us the middle finger. So the marshals kind of had to come out and protect us.
The March for Life is peaceful, prayerful, and respectful. But don't take my word for it. We're going to make a comparison to see what people thought, what they said, and how they reacted. When does human life begin?
I think... Do you know the answer to that scientifically?
No.
I don't know the answer to that.
I believe that it begins at some point when the fetus can live viably outside the womb.
When would you say life begins?
I don't think it is about determining when life begins. I think it's just a very personal, painful choice that, every woman has to make, and I don't think a government should make it. I don't think another individual should make it.
Catholics would say that a life begins at conception, right? But I think a life begins when someone's able to take care of it in the world.
Okay, when does life begin?
Conception. Conception, no exception.
Conception.
When does life begin?
At conception.
In the womb.
Life begins at conception.
At conception.
At conception.
At conception.
Do you believe in God?
I surely do.
What is the 5th commandment?
Thou shalt not kill.
What does abortion do?
I believe abortion kills. But I also, again, my faith canon is not the same as other people.
Can you tell me what the 5th commandment is?
Wait, go, quick. Well, let's see, love your mother, honor your father.
You did mention that you were Catholic. You're Catholic?
Born and raised, baby, born and raised.
Are you a faithful Catholic?
I am so not.
And you were raised Catholic?
I was, indeed.
How do you square abortion with the 5th commandment?
The 5th commandment. That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Second question is, what is the 5th commandment?
You shall not kill.
The 5th commandment, thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill.
Does that include the elderly?
It includes any innocent human life.
Legislation was passed here in Washington, D.C. to legalize euthanasia, the killing of the elderly. What is your opinion on euthanasia?
It's just as strong as my opinion against abortion. Life is life, no matter which end of the spectrum you're at.
I'm Catholic, and our stance is protecting life from conception until natural death. So.
But I do have the relative, in fact, that I took care of, who is completely checked out. His Alzheimer's is at the final stages. If the laws were such that those that love this man could peacefully send him on his way, that would be great.
There's talk that Planned Parenthood might be defunded. How do you feel about that?
Terrible, because they do not provide federal funds for any abortions. It's a big lie that the right wing has promoted.
There's talk that Planned Parenthood might be defunded of federal tax dollars. How would you feel about that?
Furious.
Not very good.
I'm terrified and horrified at the thought.
I would not like that a bit.
What would your reaction be if you heard that Planned Parenthood was defunded?
I'd be excited. I'd be happy. I mean, there's nothing greater than that.
Joy. I'd be happy. I'd be glad.
I'd be elated, actually.
My name is Abby Johnson, and I ran a Planned Parenthood clinic for 8 years. I was an abortion clinic director, and ended up leaving in 2009, and have been speaking out ever since about the corruption inside the abortion industry, what's taking place, and I've been standing up for the rights of children, but also the rights of these women, because women deserve better than anything they receive inside of an abortion clinic.
You're in a hostile environment. How's it going so far?
We've been here all day, and everything was fine, but now that there's sort of a group of us, clearly they're feeling threatened. I just got shoved into the street. sort of mayhem now.
I think I'm just angry about it. They shouldn't be here. This is for women's rights. This isn't for, going backwards in time.
No, they don't belong here. I mean, everyone has their choice.
I honestly think they are brainwashed. I don't think that they understand what it's like to be a woman. They obviously have misinformation or something wrong with them, honestly.
I'm just here to state my beliefs and be a voice as a woman who should be included in a women's march. But they're silencing us, which is completely the antithesis of what this march is supposed to be about.
My body, my choice!
Her body, her choice!
Did you see any pro-life people here screaming or yelling obscenities at anybody?
No, I haven't. Everyone's been super positive, and we're just happy to be here and express our freedom of speech. And everyone's just excited to, voice our views and opinions about the issue at hand.
So we're here at the 45th Annual March for Life, just getting some footage of the crowd and seeing how much of a force for good it can be when Catholics, evangelicals, Orthodox, and even people of no belief whatsoever get together for a single purpose here at the nation's capital.
I'm here with Our Lady of Grace and St. John's and Townsend from Pepperell and Townsend. We're out here celebrating the March for Life, to celebrate life and to stand up for life.
I'm here with my children, and they're going to make the world better because we really mess things up here.
God can bring good out of any evil, and one of the great goods he brought out of the attacks on life is the great coming together of his Christian children. Catholics, evangelicals, Jews, Muslims, all people of faith are here today, of all ages also. So it is remarkable what the great good he has brought out of this evil of abortion.
Yeah, it shows that this is not just a Catholic issue. It's a life issue, and anybody who can see the value of that life is willing to come out and stand together today. It's something that brings us all together.
I've been doing this for 32 years. And what I love about it is that it's everybody. Here comes everybody. It really is ecumenical. It's pan-religious, too. And it's people of no religion. It's a wonderful thing. It brings people together because this is so obviously a matter of justice. It's so obviously a matter of peace. This is what we need to do.
We're all fighting on the same side of natural law. And even those who don't believe, even those without a faith, to come in and fight for something that, you follow the yellow brick road long enough, you'll end up in Rome. But yeah, of course, it's really good to see our evangelical brothers and sisters out here.
I'm adopted, and my biological mother was 17, and so was my biological father. She was 7.5 months pregnant when she decided to go to Planned Parenthood, which is the largest abortion provider in the world, and they counseled her to have a late-term saline abortion, which is a saline salt solution that is injected into the mother's womb. The baby gulps that solution, it burns the baby inside and out, and then she is to deliver a dead baby within 24 hours. And to everyone's great shock and surprise, I didn't arrive dead but alive on April the 6th, 1977 in a Los Angeles County abortion clinic. What's fantastic about this, about the perfect timing of my arrival, is that the abortionist was not on duty yet. So he wasn't even given the opportunity to continue on with his plan for my life, which was death. And I know that I am in a government building, and a beautiful one it is, and I love your country as well as my own. But I know in the age that we live in, it is not at all politically correct to say the name of Jesus Christ in places like this. To bring him into these sorts of meetings because his name can make people so terribly uncomfortable. But I didn't survive so I could make everyone comfortable. I survived so I could stir things up a bit. And I have a great time doing it. And so I was delivered alive, as I've already said, after 18 hours. I should be blind, I should be burned, I should be dead. And yet I'm not. You know what is fantastic vindication is the fact that the abortionist had to sign my birth certificate. So I know who he is. And it also says, for any skeptic listening, on my medical records, born during saline abortion. Ha! They didn't win. I've done some research on the man that performed the abortion on me. And his clinics are the largest chain of clinics in the United States of America, and they gross $70 million a year. I read a quote from him at some point several years ago, and he said, "I have aborted over 1 million babies, and I consider it my passion." I tell you these things because, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are in an interesting battle, whether we realize it or not, in this world. It is a battle between life and death. What side are you on? So a nurse called an ambulance and had me transferred to a hospital, which is absolutely miraculous. Generally, the practice at the time and up until 2002 was, in my country, was to end the life of an abortion survivor by strangulation, suffocation, leaving the baby there to die, or throwing the baby away. But on August the 5th, 2002, my extraordinary President Bush signed into law the Born Alive Infants Protection Act to prevent that from occurring anymore. You see, we're playing for keeps. We're playing I'm hoping to be hated by the time that I die so that I can feel God about me and understand what it was to be hated. He was hated. Christ was hated. And not that I look forward to being hated, but I know along my journey, I know I'm already hated because I declare life. I say, you didn't get me. The silent Holocaust didn't win over me. And my mission, ladies and gentlemen, among many things, is this: to infuse humanity into a debate that we have just compartmentalized and set on a shelf and said it is an issue. We have removed our emotions. We are becoming harder. Do you really want that? How much are you willing to take, and how much are you willing to risk to speak the truth in love and graciousness and stand up and at least be willing to be hated? Or at the end of the day, is it all about you or me? And so, after that, I was placed in an emergency foster care home where they decided they didn't like me very well, and as I'm fond of saying, I don't know how you could not adore me right from the start. What is wrong with these people? But they didn't. You see, I've been hated since conception by so many, and loved by so many more, but most especially by God. I'm his girl. You don't mess with God's girl. I got a sign on my forehead that says, you better be nice to me because my Father runs the world. So after I was placed in the mean home, I was taken out of the mean home and placed into another home, a beautiful home, Penny's home. And she said by this time I was 17 months old, 32 pounds of dead weight, and diagnosed with what I considered to be the gift of cerebral palsy, which was caused directly by the lack of oxygen to my brain while I was trying to survive. Now, I am just compelled to say this. If abortion is merely about women's rights, ladies and gentlemen, then what were mine? There was not a radical feminist standing up and yelling about how my rights were being violated that day. In fact, my life was being snuffed out in the name of women's rights. And ladies and gentlemen, I would not have cerebral palsy had I not survived all of this. So when I hear the appalling, disgusting argument that we should have abortions because the child just might be disabled, oh, the horror that fills my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, there are things that you will only be able to learn by the weakest among us. And when you snuff them out, you are the one that loses. The Lord looks after them, but you are the one that will suffer forever. And what arrogance, what absolute arrogance, and it has been an argument for so long in this human place that we live, that the stronger should dominate the weaker, should determine who lives or dies. The arrogance of that, don't you realize that you cannot make your own heart beat? Don't you realize that all the power that you think you possess, you really possess none of it? It is the mercy of God that sustains you, even when you hate him. So they looked at my dear Penny and they said, Gianna will never be anything, which is always encouraging. And she decided to ignore them, and she worked with me 3 times a day, and I began to hold up my head, and they said, well, Gianna will never this and never that. Long story shorter, I was walking by the age of 3.5 with a walker and leg braces, and I stand up here today with a mild little limp and without a walker and leg braces. I fall gracefully sometimes and very ungracefully at other times, depending on the situation, but I consider it all for the glory of God. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I am weaker than most of you, but this is my sermon. And what a small price to pay to be able to blaze through the world as I do and offer hope. And I think in our misunderstanding of the way things work, we misunderstand how beautiful suffering can be. I don't willingly sign up for it, but when it comes, we forget. We forget that God is in control and God has a way of making the most miserable thing beautiful. I have met my biological mother. I have forgiven my biological mother. I am a Christian. She's a very broken woman. She came to an event I was having 2 years ago, showed up unannounced, and said, "Hello, I'm your mother." And it was a very difficult day. And yet, while I was enduring all of this, you'll probably think I'm silly, but I was sitting there and I was thinking, I don't belong to you. I belong to Christ. I'm his girl, and I'm a princess. So no matter what you say, in all your anger and brokenness and rage, it's not mine to keep. It's not mine to carry, and I won't. I was saying all this inside. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have an opportunity. But for just a brief moment, I would like to speak directly to the men in this room and do something that is never done. Men, you are made for greatness. You are made to stand up and be men. You are made to defend women and children, not stand by and turn your head when you know murder is occurring and do nothing about it. You are not made to use women and leave us alone. You are made to be kind and great and gracious and strong and stand for something. Because men, listen to me. I am too tired to do your job. Women, you are not made for abuse. You are not made to sit and not know your worth and your value. You are made to be fought for forever. So now is your moment. What sort of people are you going to be? I trust incredible. I trust, men, you will rise to the occasion. To the politicians listening, particularly to the men, I would say this: you are made for greatness, set your politics aside. You are made to defend what is right and good. This fiery young girl will stand here and say, now's your moment. What sort of man do you want to be? A man obsessed with your own glory, or a man obsessed with the glory of God? It's time to take a stand, Victoria. This is your hour. God will assist you. God will be with you. You have the opportunity to glorify and honor God in 2008. I'll just end with this. Some of you might be slightly annoyed that all I keep doing is talking about God and Jesus. But how on earth can I walk about limping through this world and not give all my heart and mind and soul and strength to the Christ who gave me life? So if you think I'm a fool, it's just another jewel in my crown. My whole intent in living here is to make God smile. I hope some of this made sense. It just came from my heart. God bless and keep you.